Hey everybody, I am going to be creating some more cards for you today. I am not going to have my channel specifically cards, but I just have been enjoying creating them. Today I'm going to be creating some Christmas cards for Christmas in July. I haven't done quite as many Christmas in July videos as I was hoping, but I think I might have at least one more or possibly two. I have 3 styles of cards for you, and each card is a slightly different. That way you can send them out to family and friends, and then they feel like they've gotten that special one-of-a-kind card. But you're not using up so much product, and you can also mass produce these if you want to. I will be keeping this video in normal speed. I did not speed up this video. I think maybe 1 or 2 spots I did, but for the most part it is just normal time, normal speed. And if you do like the sped up videos, you can actually click there's a little gear at the bottom right hand corner of the video, and you can actually choose the speed of the video. Okay, for the first card, I have some black cardstock, and I thought black was appropriate for a holiday themed card, just because you could send this out for New Year's or, you know, sometime in between, and it's more like an elegant looking card. The stamps that I am using is from Verve Stamps, and I will have a link down below. I'm taking the stamp and using some VersaMark ink and then stamping the stars or snowflakes, whatever you want to call them, randomly on the page. And I love how the watermark looks just with the VersaMark ink, but to add just a little bit more detail and a little more something to your card, you can add some of the embossing powder. I'm using some clear embossing powder from Tonic Studios, and I just sprinkle it on, and then you could see here in just a second how it just melts and creates really subtle details on your cards. If you do not own a heat tool and embossing powder, you can always, like I said, just use the VersaMark ink to add a little watermark image to your cardstock. This stamp is from Verve Stamps as well. Unfortunately, this one has been discontinued. Partly why I wanted to do this video and create so many different cards is so that I encourage you to use your stash. I know we are all guilty of buying and buying and buying and buying, and you know, one day we'll use it, one day we'll use it. And a lot of times, a lot of things just sit on our shelves or in boxes and it never gets used up. So I hope that you can pull out your stash and create some Christmas cards, and your loved ones will appreciate it. And when the holidays come around, you'll appreciate it too, because you'll have maybe all of your cards done or some of them, and it will relieve a little bit of the stress of the holidays. You can see here I used the same stamps, it's just slightly different, like I said. And then the all black card, I used the Fawn rectangle stitch die to add a little bit more detail. And then on this one here, I used the Nuvo drops just to add another little detail, and I used white embossing powder. I really love this card and I love the color. So you can change it up just a little bit so you can mass produce these, but yet still create one-of-a-kind cards. All right, let's get started with card number 2. For the red, white, and gray card, I just used some Color Philosophy ink, and I did not emboss it. This is the Concord & 9th Barnwood Background stamp set. I really love this stamp. I've been trying to use it on a card for quite some time, and I thought these cards would be perfect for a more rustic Christmas card. I'm taking the VersaMark and adding quite a bit of it to the stamp. And when I'm using a really large background stamp, I like to add the paper on top of the stamp and then I apply a little bit of pressure with my hand, and then also I remembered I just got this little roller tool. I roll it really carefully on top of the cardstock, and this way I get a really nice impression. Where I'm holding it on with my thumbs, I'm not adding a lot of pressure either, because you don't want to add too much pressure or else you're going to smush the ink, and you don't want a big smushed spot, because I'm going to add embossing powder and then it'll just be a big blob on your card front. Okay, so I'm going to slowly lift it up. Then you can see that it creates a really nice watermarked image on your cardstock. And you can do this if you do not have a heat tool and embossing powder, and it creates a really nice look for your cards. I am going to heat set this, and it melts really nicely, and I just love the look of this card. I love that the wood texture. It's super cool. You can add white embossing powder, black embossing powder. You can do this so many different ways. I think that's why I loved making these cards so much, because you can create these cards in a million different ways. I have taken the Lawn Fawn rectangle die and cut out this card front just to add a little bit more detail with the stitch. I really like that. And this is a Hero Arts Stamp and Cuts. I really like these sets because you have so many different ways you can add the sentiments, and then you have that one little die to highlight that main word or that main sentiment that you want to put on your card. So I cut it out 3 times with my Big Shot machine, and I am going to layer them together. So I have this really cool ProCision bottle. I put some glossy accents in mine. I know a lot of people use the Ranger matte medium, I think it's called. I just use glossy accents. Whatever you prefer, you can put in the bottle. I am just taking it and just adding a little bit to the word because it's very intricate. And I think this is a really cool way to add a little bit of dimension with those intricate dies, to layer them on top of each other like this. I'm taking that craft cardstock that I embossed the wood texture on, and I am just using some cheap adhesive, and I will be placing it onto some white cardstock, again just to change it up just a little bit. I'm now going to take the Christmas word from the same set, and using the VersaMark, I'm going to stamp it onto the vellum. Sorry, lost my words there. And I am using some crimson, let me see here, crimson gloss embossing powder from Tonic Studios. And again, I'm just going to heat that up and melt it. I really like that look of the white with the craft and the red. I add a little bit of the glossy accents to the curved bottom portion of the word because I'm going to add it to the vellum, and that way it all can be adhered to the front of the card. And I'm carefully adding a little bit of the glossy accents to the back of the vellum piece and also the die cut piece. And then I wanted to put it in the middle, and then I again am going to change it up just a tad, and I add it to the bottom right corner. Really like how this card turned out. I'm just going to place the stamp block on top of that just so that it adheres really nicely. So you can see the 3 different variations of the card that I created with the same products. I really like the red one, and this one I just stamped the wood texture with the Color Philosophy inks, like I said, and I did use the Lawn Fawn stitched rectangle die to cut out that top white layer. This card I just use a craft cardstock, and it's just the card base, and I added the die cut with the vellum just on the card front. Okay, so this is the last card. I think this one is my favorite out of the 3. I really like the glitter paper and the watercolor look and the non-traditional colors. So this card, I used some of the little stars from the Hero Art Stampin' Cuts set, and I created a emboss resist, and that's really simple to do. You just use the embossing powder and heat set it, and then it creates a resist when you add your color to it. So I used the Prima water soluble oil pastels, and you just add a little bit of water to them and you can create a watercolor look, and you get a lot of different colors, and I believe they're under $15. So I added a little bit of water to this watercolor paper. This is a Strathmore cold press watercolor paper. I'm adding some color with the Zig Clean Color Row Brush markers, and this color is the Persian green. It's probably my favorite. So with the water already on the watercolor paper, it's going to help it spread out and create that watercolor look. You can always do this as I'm doing here, adding it to like a non-porous surface, and then you can add it with a watercolor brush. I'm just adding the color directly to the watercolor paper, but because these are water-based, the tips get watered down, so I have to use the matte, and then I'm just spreading the color out and making it go to the tip of the marker again. And then I use the watercolor brush to spread it out and make it all nice and even on the watercolor paper. So I'm going to set that aside to dry, and I'm going to take some more vellum. I just am obsessing with vellum lately, and another Verve stamp. Unfortunately, this one again is discontinued, but I am taking some superfine embossing powder. This is white embossing powder, and heat setting that onto the vellum. I really like the look of the white on the vellum. It gives the card a nice overall soft look. I'm just going to tear the edge of this vellum just to give it a nice rough edge. I really like when things are imperfect. I think it adds a lot more character and uniqueness to your projects. So I have some more vellum, and I am just going to layer that watercolor piece on top of the vellum just to add more interest to the card. And I have these metallics paints from Prima, and I'm going to add a little bit of gold splatters. This metallic paint is super creamy and you don't need a lot. I just use the watercolor brush and add a little bit of water to the pan there with the color in it. I don't know the technical terms. I'm not a watercolorist, but I just squeeze a little bit of water out of the watercolor brush and then tap it and create the little splatters. So I'm just going to layer all of my pieces together, and again I'm just using some cheap adhesive that I got from, I think it was either Walmart or Hobby Lobby. I really like the layer of vellum in the back, and I take that little strip of glitter paper and add it to the side of the vellum. That way I have the cardstock to adhere to the card front, and I don't have to put too much adhesive onto the vellum. So I'm showing you here that the dies, these are the Lawn Fawn snowflake die, and it cut through this really thick glitter paper. I did have to use a little shim in between the layers of the platform on the Sizzix, but it worked. I was actually really surprised. I am now going to adhere the 2 layers to the card base, and it's just some regular cardstock. After I adhere that down, I'm going to add some glossy accents, and I'm going to add some upholstery thread. I love this stuff. Oh my goodness, it's storming outside. I don't know if you can hear the rain, but I'm right by my window, and it's gonna probably thunder. Anyway, so I add some upholstery thread, and then I'm going to add one of these little snowflakes in the center just to hold it in place. And I love the little texture it gives, a little subtle texture. I'm just going to add all of the other snowflakes that I want on the card front with some of that glossy accent. And one of the cards I did not use these little snowflakes, but I thought, again, to just change it up a little bit, I would add these little gold snowflakes. You can add sequins if you want, anything that you have in your stash that will just give a little bit more interest to your card. So I have the crystal Nuvo drops, or the Nuvo crystal drops I should say, and I am just adding them to this mat, and then I'm going to let them dry. And I don't know if there's like a certain technique, but I just squeeze a tiny little bit out and then just pull the bottle up pretty fast. I don't know if that makes sense, but I haven't really watched any videos, so a lot of mine aren't really round like they should be, but they're not completely dry, just enough so I can pick them up, and then that way I don't have to use adhesive, because I find it pretty tedious to add the adhesive to these little dots here. That is going to complete these cards here. You could see I'm just going to show you the different variations of different cards. I love how they all turned out, and this is probably going to be just enough for me to send out for Christmas, so I don't have to worry about buying Christmas cards, which honestly I normally do. This is probably going to be the first time that anybody gets a handmade card from me. I really don't hand them out too often. If you made it through the video, I would love to hear if you make your own cards and hand them out for Christmas or birthdays or anything like that. And I want to thank you guys so much for watching. Please give this video a thumbs up and share it with your friends. It helps me out tremendously, and it helps me continue to be able to create videos for you guys. So thank you guys, and I will catch you guys later. Bye!